A Russian delegation landed in Istanbul for the first direct peace talks with Ukraine in more than 3 years, but without President Vladimir Putin, despite calls from world leaders for his attendance. As the talks unfold, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy arrives in Ankara to meet with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Only after this crucial meeting will Zelenskyy decide what steps to take next in peace talks with Russia. US President Donald Trump said today in Qatar that he could still travel to Turkey for the first direct Russia-Ukraine talks aimed at ending their more than 3-year war if progress is made. Let's take a listen in to what Trump had to say in Qatar.
I was thinking about going, but it's very tough because of what we're doing today and tomorrow. But, you know, if something happened, I'd go on Friday if it was appropriate. But we have people right now negotiating, and I think that I just hope that Russia and Ukraine are able to do something because...
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, speaking at a NATO meeting in Antalya, Turkey, said there was no military solution to the conflict and that Trump was open to virtually any mechanism that would lead to peace. Let's take a listen in to what Rubio had to say.
Thank you, and I think today's meeting sets up what I hope will be, I believe, will be a very successful leaders-level meeting. There is no military solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This war is going to end not through a military solution, but through a diplomatic one. And the sooner an agreement can be reached on ending this war, the less people will die and the less destruction there will be. Everyone else impatient, we want to see it happen. The big issue on everyone's mind is what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. The President of the United States has been abundantly clear he wants the war to end. He's open to virtually any mechanism that gets us to a just, enduring, and lasting peace. And that's what he wants to see. He wants to see an end to wars. He wants to keep wars from happening. And but it's difficult. But the President has just submitted a budget for $1 trillion of defense spending, which is unheard of. It's unparalleled. And it's not just spending money. It's spending money on the capabilities that are needed for the threats of the 21st century. All kinds of different threats that look different from the threats in the past. And I hope that progress will be made here soon.
NATO foreign ministers arrived for the opening of an informal meeting in the southern Turkish province of Antalya today, as Russia-Ukraine talks are due to start in Istanbul on the same day. The ball is now clearly in Russia's court to take the next step in possible peace talks with Ukraine. NATO chief Mark Rutte said in an interview in Antalya. Let's take a listen to what Mark Rutte had to say.
Ceasefire and immediate negotiations. That's absolutely clear. The ball is now clearly in Russia's court. They have to explain what they are doing, why they are here or not, and with what team or whatever. But let's make sure that we all understand that the ball is in their court. Ukraine is wanting to start the negotiations as soon as possible. And as I said before, it is thanks to the Americans and President Trump that the deadlock has been broken. It's now up to the Russians to make sure they take the next steps necessary.
The Russian Federation sent a fighter jet to monitor the situation, but it violated NATO airspace for nearly 1 minute. A significant escalation, according to the Estonian foreign minister. He emphasized that this move marks Russia's official connection to the so-called Russian shadow fleet. In response, NATO scrambled its own fighters to intercept and inspect the Russian aircraft. Latvia's foreign minister also weighed in, stating that NATO faces clear threats. She underscored that Russia is the most direct and significant threat to the security of NATO allies and Atlantic stability. At the same time, terrorism remains a major asymmetric threat to citizens worldwide. Let's take a listen in to what both the foreign ministers further said.
The Russian Federation sent a fighter jet to check the situation, and this fighter jet violated the NATO territory close to 1 minute. This is something very new. So we need to understand that Russia has officially tied and connected itself to Russian shadow fleet. And also the NATO fighters stood up and went to inspect and check the Russian fighter.
With the Russian delegation in Turkey and Zelenskyy in Ankara, the stage is set for potentially groundbreaking discussions between the two sides. Moving over to the Middle East now, where in latest updates, Israeli airstrikes killed at least 60 people in Gaza today, including women, children and a local journalist, with 11 family members, according to reports. Most casualties occurred in Khan Yunis, where homes and tents were hit, according to the Palestinian medics. The strikes come as US President Donald Trump visits the Gulf, with Palestinians accusing him of emboldening Israeli aggression. New ceasefire talks led by the US, Qatar and Egypt have seen little progress as Israel insists Hamas must be eradicated. Palestinians say Gaza is nearing collapse, with over 52,900 dead and a famine looming. This is worse than the Nakba, says one displaced resident, as attacks continue with no safe zone in sight.